So I'm going to break down a part of a video, a part of an interview with Linehan, and hear him whine and moan and bitch about other people just because he wants them to be transphobic. So let's get straight into the video and just debunk the lies, the whining, and the bitching, basically.
Really naming all the names, but Richard Herring and what's her name, the very twee Josie Lark.
Don't know.
Yeah,
maybe
the very twee comedians and left-wing comedians, Stuart Lee as well.
Yeah.
Like they're pandering to a student audience. They're terrified of losing the student audience, and at the moment, the student audience they perceive to be trans goofy. So they.
Okay, so Stuart Lee is a man in his 50s, so is Richard Herring, and they've got quite a broad audience, but I've been to a few of their gigs. Usually it's quite, people in the 40s, 50s, usually a lot of men. So what he's trying to do here is kind of diminish the fact that because these people have a young audience, which obviously they do, that somehow they're just being hypocrites by not sharing his views and having an audience that is younger, who are going to be more trans positive. And it's not an argument. It's fallacy. It's jealousy. This is why he's talking about Stuart Lee, Richard Herring, because they're more talented than him. They've not lost their careers. And they've actually got some integrity. They've got no reason to demonise trans people because trans people aren't a problem. He's fighting shadows in his head. He's obsessed with this argument because I don't know what's going on in his brain. He's a very sad man. I know he's lost his career, so now he kind of has to double down. And it's pathetic. He is just a whiny little bitch.
They will happily just throw others under the bus just to maintain what they think is a relationship that they have with these kids. And
he always uses this phrase, throw people under the bus, but I don't think he knows what it means. He's misusing this phrase. By not supporting your hateful views, this is not throwing people under the bus. Would you call it, if he was come out as racist, which I don't know if he is, you would not call people who distance themselves throwing them under the bus. This is not how it works. And also people have the right, when you come out with horrible views that are transphobic, bigoted, based in fear and disgust, not evidence, people have a right to not be your friend anymore, not to kind of work with you and distance themselves. That is a perfectly legitimate thing, because what he's saying otherwise is that, oh, you have to support my views. No, they don't. Why? Just because you've had a relationship with them previously. This is almost an abuser logic, like you have to have an allegiance to me. Whatever views I have, you have to stick with me. You have to. I mean, J.K. Rowling does this as well with the cast of Harry Potter. Somehow they owe her something because why? No. If you've got hateful views, no, bye-bye. It's really that simple. It's such a victim abusive mindset.
It's a terrible thing to say, but they're right. If they say something like, well, maybe women deserve fair sports, or maybe my wife and child should have a place they can go where they can be without any men, no matter how they...
Okay, so the women's bathroom thing. Well, why is he not talking about the real abuse that happens to women from cis men? This is the problem. They always weaponize women's pain to prove their point and basically hate on trans people. But he doesn't care about the sexual assault against women. He doesn't care about the violence towards women. He doesn't care. He's just using the idea that women's sports, and it's always these two, women's sports, that's all they've got. They've got no empirical evidence. They've got no real evidence of the harm. It's illegal to go into a women's bathroom and sexually assault them. That's already illegal. We prosecute that. So the idea that they have to manufacture these problems because trans people are living their lives, they're more likely to harm themselves. He has to, because he hates trans people, it's the politics of hate. He's disgusted, he's repressed, he's a hateful little man whom nobody likes. He has to project his insecurities, his sexual insecurities on the trans community. And it's the same with J.K. Rowling. And it's just pathetic. In 10 years' time, 20 years' time, people like this will just look back at them and go, oh my God, what the hell happened to him? You know, he wrote Father Ted, the IT Crowd. What the hell happened? I mean, people are doing that now, but bloody hell, like, he is going to regret this in the few decades, I guarantee.
They know that the instant they say that, they've lost that audience. They've lost that audience.
And they're not cool in their cool. It's not just. I think there's a monetary thing you're saying, and I think there's still this cool thing. I mean, Stuart Lee.
Oh, it's desperate hanging on to youth, and you know.
Yeah, Stuart Lee's desperate to be cool. I mean, he always was that way. The anti-mainstream.
He's really not. He doesn't care. He's an old man now who's like got hearing aids. He doesn't care. He's got his base audience, which is pretty much the people who've been seeing him for the last 20 years, 30 years in his career. So the idea that he's pandering to young people, he's not. He is not pandering to young people. But because Graham Linehan has no audience now, he's got no money, he has to manufacture these things. And he's just jealousy. He's just jealous of Stuart Lee because Stuart Lee is literally the most respected comedian in the industry.
Comedian who's on the BBC all the time. You know, when you're a big hit on the BBC, you're probably not as alternative as you might think you are, is what I would say to left-wing Stuart Lee.
Yeah. yeah. It's I mean, they're all. I call them regime comedians. You know, like there's a regime in power. If you cross them, they'll do to you what they did to me. Right? They will harass you and your family, try and get you fired from jobs, and so on and so forth. And again, you know, they're right to be scared. They're right to be scared.
He's such a whiny victim. That's the thing. You can just spew hate, spew lies, just anecdote, no evidence. But when people call you out for your lies, your hatred, your transphobia, then you play the victim. You lose job. Yes, if you are hateful towards people, if you're racist, misogynistic, transphobic, you will lose your job. And that's right. People do not need your hate. They just want to live their lives. Just let them live and let live. Live and let live.
These people. But rather than do the decent thing, like stand up for a friend, say, I know Graham and he's not a big...
Stand up for a friend. Why should he? They don't like your views. Stand up for a friend. No. It's such an entitlement. Believe what I believe. Have my back when I'm being hateful and marginalised one of the most vulnerable communities. Why? He's such a... Oh my God. Victim.
What are you talking about? Or... women deserve fair sports. What's wrong with saying that? Instead of doing that, they pretend they can't see what's going on. Look the other way. Well, people are losing everything. You know. I mean, I'm not the only example, as you know, and you've had trouble. Yeah. You know, Rosie Kay. You know, now has is fighting cancer. You know, she lost her dance studio because because she got into an argument where she started speaking about how, when she gave birth to her child, her sex was very important to her. It was an experience that her husband couldn't have gone through. In fact, both she and her child nearly died. That's why Rosie Kay was cancelled by her own dancers in her own house. And they launched a complaint.
When they say this as well, and this is where I'll end, the importance of sex. No one denies that sex and gender are different. That's the point. There's a difference between the two. Sex is biological. Gender is the psychological. It's the social expectations. And they try and collapse the two together, but it's not the same. And it's gender essentialism. It's saying that women are this, men are that. Know your place, act like a man, act like a woman. And that's what it is. It's a reactionary movement of hate towards people who don't, align with these narrow definitions of what a man is and what a woman is. And that's all it is. It's a reactionary movement based on hate, based on anecdote, to just demonise and marginalise a people that have always been around. They always will be. They identify with a gender that is separate to what they were assigned to at birth. They are not causing harm. You have to demonstrate the harm. And that's why they always talk about anecdote about women's sports and bathrooms, because there is no evidence. The scientific consensus is clear. British medical institutes across America, the UK, this is scientifically not even an argument. Like climate change, the consensus is here. It's valid to identify as a gender that is different to what you were assigned to at birth. This is scientific consensus. There's no argument. The science was in. It's that clear. So, comment below, why do people like this have a platform? They're just spewing hate. He's just whining. Just whining. He's a victim of his own making. He caused the problems, he spews the hate, and he expects people to congratulate him and be friends with him when he's just got hate, and that's all he's got. So, comment below, and I'll see you in the next video.